Welcome to Lucky Top. Um, Today we're going to be talking about a variety of topics. We'll start with college football, then move on to NFL, talk about hockey, and give you some bets for the weekend. I want to start first with probably the biggest news of the year, short year so far, but you have Nick Saban retiring. So I want to get your thoughts. Andy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, as a Tennessee fan, I gotta say, it's good to have Independence Day finally, come through. You hate to see it. Your rival team gets the greatest coach of all time and just starts winning, natties, the SEC championships. I mean, the couple of years ago in 2022, when Tennessee beat Alabama, that was the first time seeing Tennessee beat Alabama in my 15, 20 years of watching American football. Because once I came to America, and Josh got me into watching college football, and around that time is when Nick Saban came to Alabama, and it hasn't been pretty. So I'm glad we were able to finally see that fall. And then obviously all the respect to Nick Saban. He's the greatest coach for a reason. I wish him well in retirement, but as a rival fan, very happy he's gone. Looking forward to some more parity in the SEC and in college football as overall. But nothing but respect.
Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Andy a lot on his take there. I will say, I think Nick Saban was good and bad for college football. I think he brought obviously a lot more viewership. He expanded college football in his ability to kind of dominate it in a way that we probably won't see again for quite some time. I think Kirby's got a good chance. I mean, he's already got 2 natties at Georgia. But now with the landscape shifting with the NIL and everything, I think holistically college football is probably going to see a lot more parity. And not for nothing, not only did he dominate the game, but Nick Saban, I mean, he produced a lot of good, pro football players, right? So the NFL is flooded full of people that are from that Nick Saban coaching tree, not only just players, but coaches as well. Even Tennessee's hired 2 former coaches that at the time they were former coaches of Nick Saban. Obviously, Nick hired Lane Kiffin after he had left Tennessee, but a lot of ties there. But I'm really interested to see the trajectory of Alabama going forward, especially now that they hired Kellen DeBoer from Washington. Imagine being Kellen DeBoer. Monday night, you're in the national championship game. No way that you're thinking you're going to be Alabama's coach in 5 days.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? Through that, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Alabama next year. I didn't think they would get into the honestly the Final Four like last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. For Alabama, I didn't think they would be like a top 4 team at the end of the year, but I mean, it's really Saban coaching that team, getting them there. They have athletes, but Milroe, it's not like he was some amazing quarterback or anything. He just he used them the right way. At the end of the day. So Saban gone is it's a big blow for Alabama, really. At the end of the day, and I don't know that they'll be a top team next year, regardless of who the players are.
Yeah.
I think they'll be top 25. I don't think they'll be playing for a national championship, though.
I think it's hard to not look at Alabama taking a step back. I mean, you're replacing Nick, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
a lot of players will be too.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing it. A lot of their players already hitting the portal, right? So
recruits decommitting.
Decommitting left and right. So the fallout's going to be pretty big, I think. I will give Alabama some credit that they did go and hire Kellen DeBoer because I think he's an innovative play caller. He's a lot like Josh Heupel in a lot of ways with his offense. I hope that the SEC keeps Bama on our schedule so we can see the rock fight between the 2 boys from South Dakota Kellen DeBoer and Josh Heupel. I think that'll be a polarizing rivalry in the SEC because I think as we know, the typical pocket passing quarterback days, I think, are kind of gone. Right, you're seeing more of the mobile, being able to run and throw. So we'll see how it shakes out. But outside of Nick Saban, I mean, we had a lot of other moves with Belichick and Pete Carroll. Obviously, Pete Carroll calling it a career, and then Belichick getting let go by the Patriots. Naveen, what are your thoughts about the GOAT? 6 Super Bowl championships in New England, getting let go by his team, and then replaced by former Tennessee Vol Gerard Mayo.
Right. So I think we can bring it down to a couple factors, right? Number one, performance without Tom Brady, right? we saw, the record go from 70+% winning percentage, 6 Super Bowls, to being an under 500 coach. That struck home with Robert Kraft for sure.
So the Patriot way was Tom Brady? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, if you have a generational quarterback, you can win for a fucking generation. If you don't, you're on the hot seat. It's the NFL. It's a huge business, multi-billion dollars, and you can't really mess around. And I think number two, the main thing that we saw with Saban, but we didn't see with Belichick, is a little bit of adaptability, right? Like when I first started watching college football, it was Bama 9, LSU 6 kind of natty performances. He got his win in 2020 with a dynamic offense. He kind of went through some evolutions of the game. I don't think he was ready to go through the next step of adaptability, which is navigating NIL and transfer portal. That's kind of why he called it quits this time. But with Belichick, we don't see that, right? You try to take Saban's leftovers with Mac Jones, and he clips you. So it's not. It's not that kind of situation for him yet. I think you have a golden kind of coaching ideal scenario with going to the Chargers potentially. That's something that is being talked about, because you start with Justin Herbert and some weapons and some high draft picks as well. So I think that's something that every coach on the market is looking for.
Yeah, no, I agree. We talked about Harbaugh a little bit, right? Earlier in the week, and his potential moves. Somewhere I'd like to see him land if he doesn't stay at Michigan, obviously, would be with Justin Herbert out in LA. I think that's just a match made in heaven. A franchise that is just like right on the cusp of being able to be elite and kind of get over the hump there with the Chargers. They have the pieces. I think they just need the right coaching to get them where they need to be. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, well, speaking of Harbaugh, first I think obviously a huge success at Michigan. Like he's been there for 6-7 years now,
Yeah, 7,
and when he first got there, he's had some head scratcher losses, like with the Michigan State punt block, for example, things like that where it's just been memed to death. He's had heartbreaking losses versus Ohio State, in the late 2010s. And then, starting with the Ohio State at Michigan game, in 2021, just having that steady sort of, progress towards being a legitimate contender. So he had to first beat Ohio State, to sort of enter the playoffs. Got embarrassed in the college football playoff semifinals. Tried it again. Beat Ohio State again, and then went there. Again, like falling short. But third time's the charm, and I think there's a lot to say about how Michigan administration sort of stuck with him, giving him another chance. Because there was a lot of calling for his head, 3-4 years ago. Especially after the COVID season, but
he couldn't beat Ohio State,
right? And then he came through finally. So I'm good to see that success. Obviously, we can debate about the whole off the field scandals with the recruiting violations and the alleged cheating situation. But at the end of the day, I think he's done what he had to do at Michigan, which is beating Ohio State and sort of, not by a fluke, but, just for 3 years in a row now, right? Like he's established that, he can bring a team to success. And, honestly, he could, run it back and try again. But, given that a lot of the experienced players, skilled players on Michigan team are sort of, graduating or leaving for NFL, I think, if I were him, again, like, I can't begin to think how much he must love his alma mater and he coaches there. So, that's probably, like a best place for him. But at the same time, if he's any worried about like, potential violations hitting the program, we just saw the news that FSU potentially is going to get hit with some.
Oh, they are getting hit.
Yeah,
2 years of
violations.
probation.
Right? So like, if you can't recruit, you can't win at the highest level. And I think because of that, people are speculating he might leave to the NFL, give that a shot again, kind of following the Pete Carroll sort of footsteps,
right,
so to speak. Like NFL, come back to college, win and win the national championship, sort of prove that you have the ability to win, go back to the NFL and potentially going trying with some exciting franchises like Chargers. So I think that would be like my guess is that he might be trying to find his way back to the NFL. And it sounds almost like a broken record every year this time around, like, oh, is Harbaugh going to the NFL? But I think now that he's proven it, it's sort of a nice way to walk out on top. Don't have to deal with any recruiting violations, anything like that, and then go back to the NFL.
There's some teeth to it of him actually leaving this year. I would like to see him come to the Titans, but our owner is horrible, and she's not gonna even call him or interview him. But we're gonna interview the running backs coach from San Francisco, who's like 60 years old. So there's that. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate you. Any final thoughts on Harbaugh and maybe his potential movement, Frank? You got any?
Yeah. I think he's going to go to the NFL. I've been thinking about it all week, and honestly, he's just not great at recruiting. The best players at Michigan are going to leave. He's not going to be playing for a national championship next year. It's just not going to happen. But he can make a pretty easy transition to the NFL. Honestly, people are going to want him. Owners in the NFL are going to want a guy that just won the national championship, especially a bad team from this season in the NFL. They're going to need a new coach, one of the teams that fired a head coach. I think it's something that could definitely happen, and it's probably in his best interest. He'll get more money at the end of the day. With Belichick, just kind of touching back on that, I mean, that guy was nothing without Tom Brady. I mean, you kind of seen it the past couple of years. No Tom Brady equals no playoffs, no Super Bowl. He kind of rode it as long as he could. And if I was him, I would have just retired as soon as Brady left, because it kind of saves him the embarrassment of just going, under 500 for the rest of his career, which is pretty much what's going to happen at the end of the day. No matter who he signs with, no matter who he coaches, he's a good coach, and he was a great coach with Tom Brady. But without Tom Brady, I mean, he just can't really assemble the pieces together to kind of make it happen.
Frank,
It's not.
Would you say he tarnished his legacy at all by not retiring when Tom left?
It takes a little bit away from him, sure. I don't think it tarnishes it, but at the end of the day, it kind of just shows you how good Tom Brady was there.
One thing I'll add that for Belichick, having a sub 500 record obviously hurts, as Frank mentioned. One thing that he could go for is the all-time record, right? The wins, and I think that at this point that has to be the goal for him. He's not looking for. I mean, obviously he would love to get a Super Bowl, appearance or a ring, of course. Who wouldn't? But like realistically, what could he do to like cement his place? Is if he just gets to that all-time wins record. Sure. And he's 14 wins away. So
Naveen, what kind of franchise do you think Belichick could go to where he could resume his winning ways?
I don't think about it in terms of the franchise. I think about it in terms of the quarterback, right? Because, Herbert.
Franchise has got to have a quarterback, right? So
yeah, Herbert is an excellent option, but again, he doesn't have that much experience winning. What would make like the biggest splash? I don't know, maybe Chicago Bears or something. get them to the playoffs. If he waits a year, Jets get him to the playoffs. Those are type of big time opportunities that would cement his legacy. And, everybody is open to having an elite Hall of Fame coach. This is the type of guy that can transform a franchise. Like, I don't know, like growing up, my early years of watching football, like, I don't know, I was a Vikings fan. Like playing Pats is just like, automatic win. Now after that, it's like automatic loss. So
Now
I
it's
think those,
back to being an automatic dub.
yeah.
Our buddy Steve, who's a avid Bills fan,
Yeah.
and I
Bills
asked his
Mafia.
opinion. It was like, yeah, when Tom Brady retired, there was a collective sigh in Buffalo. Everybody was riding in joy. Imagine having to play them twice every season. Just like Tennessee playing.
Yeah,
Bama,
I was about to say
Georgia.
there's a lot of parallels
Yeah.
there between Saban retiring and when
Belichick.
Tom Brady left
Yeah.
the Patriots. So
Right. Like Bills have won the division 4 times in a row, 4 years after Brady
Yeah.
left. Right. So Steve's probably happy about that. But, the big bag wolf left. So I want to switch gears a little bit to the NFL. We have a huge weekend coming up. Unfortunately, college football, there's no week 17 of college football, unfortunately. So we got to transition a little bit to NFL now. We got 6 games this week, wild card weekend. We start off with 2 games today, Browns and Texans at Browns, and Miami and Chiefs at Chiefs.
At Texans, right?
yeah, it's at Texas.
That's in Houston.
Oh, sorry. All right,
Because
sorry.
they're the divisional winner.
My bad. So so it's Texans Browns at Texans, and Miami and Dolphins. Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. Supposed to be one of the coldest games of the year.
Minus
Yeah.
with wind chill, minus 30.
Right. So I just want to start you guys off with a stat that I thought was interesting, gambling trend wise for these games. So and then I'll let you guys kind of discuss what your thoughts are. Quarterbacks entering their first playoff game are 30% ATS. So 70% of the time, if you fade a quarterback in his first playoff appearance, you win. With that being said, my big lock of the week is Browns. Texans are at home. Obviously, they have CJ Stroud, one of the people that Harbaugh dominated, funny enough. But we got Browns -1.5 now. I think that's a big time lock. I think it's going to be Browns by a touchdown. Pretty boy Flacco. I think it's going to.
Go, baby. Go.
I think it's going to be closer to 7 to 10 point victory for the Browns. They have a dominant defense. Flacco's playing out of his mind. That's the one team I don't want to face right now. So Browns for me.
Literally, the AFC South is trash. Like the NFL is obligated to put a divisional winner into the playoffs, but literally everybody in the AFC South is awful. So the Browns lock it in. I think it's -1.5 at Houston. I will say, D'Amico's done a great job down with Houston. Former player coming back to his team. That's all cool. But I think the Cinderella story for Houston kind of ends today with behind the golden arm of one Joe Flacco, which could potentially set up a visit back to the Ravens' nest at the M&T next week. That'd be a great storyline on that one.
Andy?
Yeah, I do think that the experience always, comes into, these game, the intention, very intense, playoff environment, and having Joe Flacco, as much as we meme about him, he's had that one legendary run, right? Like where he just played out of his mind, and I think the nice thing about this time around is that he doesn't have to bail his team out. Like his Browns team's very solid. The defense, Myles Garrett. Like I think all the Browns needed was just someone competent enough to to sort of not force, stupid throws, not, risk things.
Not be Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and I think Flacco has that experience. Like, he's never been a game manager. He's more of a slinger type. But that being said, I think it's gonna be very interesting. Again, like I think defense wins championships. And that phrase is repeated by many people for a reason. I like the Browns, and I think it also sets up NFL for a nice spicy story, like Flacco versus his former team. Similarly to what we're having with Stafford versus Lions, and then Goff versus the Rams, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I like the Browns there.
It's a good tease, Andy. It's a good tease.
And then the second game, Miami at Kansas City, and I think that's that's something that Dolphins could have avoided. They could have been here today, playing in a nice,
beautiful out
80-degree weather.
And
We Josh and I have been to the Hard Rock Stadium before. It's set up very similar to the University of Florida, the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium at the Swamp, where the home field advantage is strong. Like your opposing teams are sitting in the sun. And it's been reported that the temperature difference when the sun's out in full gear is like 15, 20 degrees just because, the Florida sun. So I feel like had they just won their game last week, they would have had a rematch here versus the Bills. And that I think would have been way better than them traveling to Kansas City. Tua, I read this somewhere that, he's 0-4 in his career, when the kickoff temperature is below 40 degrees, and tonight it's going to be a lot colder. We also like to talk about the experience, right? And then Kansas City is a proven team. However, I don't think Dolphins cover. I don't think Dolphins pull out a victory, but I do think that they can cover. These NFL games, very, very tight. I don't like what I've seen from Kansas City this year. I feel like they've been exposed a lot, and there are clear weaknesses, in the way that they can run their offense right now. And I think it's going to be a slugfest. But Dolphins are probably going to cover the +3.5.
Yeah, I think it's going to be less a rock fight and more a snowball fight.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty crazy out there, -30 with wind chill. I will say probably the revenge tour for Tyreek Hill.
Right.
He's going to go out there and he's going to do his thing. I'm not overly concerned with Miami. I know they're going to be going against the elements, but I think that they have a real, as we say in the South, case of the red ass. And they're going to go down there and they're going to take it out on Kansas City because of what happened with them not winning the division. And we've seen Mr. COVID, Travis Kelce, and his girlfriend a lot this season. I still think that's a big distraction from the team. And then Pat Mahomes, not been the ideal playmaker in the last 3 or 4 games. If you look at
all season,
really all season. But I mean, I think he's been hit a lot. O-line's not playing great. They're not getting the ball in space. His receivers are dropping a lot of passes. He's getting frustrated with his offensive playmakers because they're letting him down. He can only do so much. I think the rest of the offense is really struggled this year. So give me not only Miami to cover, but Miami's going to win.
Frank, your thoughts on either game?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Miami's going to win. What I think is going to happen is it's going to be less than a touchdown game, and Chiefs are going to get the ball last possession of the game, maybe like minute 50 seconds left or something. Yeah, it just makes for like a good story for Mahomes to get the ball last drive of the game, and he's just not going to get it done today. He doesn't have the receivers anymore. These guys just drop the ball over and over and over and over, and you're just going to see him, face palm at the end of the day for Mahomes. Dolphins are going to win that one. For the Browns game, I like Flacco. He's veteran of the game. He's coming back. It's kind of his last tour. He's not going to really have another shot after this. This guy's 38 years old, so he's going to come ready to play. And the cold weather, I'm down in Texas. I mean, it's 34 degrees this morning, so. It's going to favor the Browns today, I think.
They're inside.
They're playing in a dome, Frank. Dome.
What's that?
They're playing inside a dome in Houston.
No elements. They're
gotcha.
close to the roof, Frank.
It's still
They're
cold, man. But
Yeah.
you know, that's my reads on NFL, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Gotcha there, Frank. I think I would go contrarian to you guys. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs big. I think this is a good buy low point for Chiefs. Like they haven't showed you shit, but they're playing against a team in their stadium, in their elements. Kind of, Andy, you gave me the stat that I was going to use: Tua 0-4 under 40 degrees. It's fucking 70 degrees colder than 40 degrees. So I think it's a good time to take the Chiefs. I think, we might see a low-scoring game, frankly. I'm thinking something to the effect of 21-10 kind of a game.
Okay.
5 significant injuries for the Dolphins. Howard,
Yep.
Holland, Elliott, Mostert, Waddle. Howard is definitely out. Mostert, Waddle, Holland, and Elliott are questionable. And I don't think this is a good time for the Dolphins to kind of like establish themselves. I think obviously if it was in Miami, probably would have taken the Dolphins plus the 3.5 here, but not in Chiefs, not in the cold. So I'm going Chiefs there.
The injury bug.
probably right, honestly, Naveen. Now that I think about it a little bit, I mean, my gut instinct is Dolphins, and I'm consistently wrong on NFL, so probably right with Chiefs.
Nah, don't let him do that. Baby, let's go.
I will say that we might be a little bit biased here because we are, miles away from the Dolphin Stadium, and likely we're gonna be watching the game
From
with
the
a bunch
sportsbook, yeah.
of Dolphins fans. So I will admit that there's a little bit of bias there. I do wish they would have, closed the deal because then we could have potentially went there just to experience the NFL playoff vibe, tailgating, and everything. So that sucks, but. That being said, looking forward to the experience. I feel like we're gonna see, either Kansas City emerging or the Dolphins finally breaking through and establishing themselves as a consistent contender.
All right, Naveen, you want to take us the rundown for the rest of the wild card weekend and just get everybody's,
Yep.
picks on that?
Yeah, so I'll go through all the games and the lines that I see in front of me right now, updated lines that I have right now, and then I'll get everybody's read. We don't have to go game by game on every game for this weekend, but just give me one pick that you guys think for the rest of the weekend. So I'll start off Sunday at 1 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We got Steelers at the Bills, another kind of snow weather game. The Bills are paying $20 an hour for you to shovel and giving you unlimited food at the stadium. So any people in Buffalo, just heads up, $20 an hour to shovel and free food for the game. Bills minus 9.5, over under 33.5. Classic playoff line. Those are the lines I like to see, frankly. Next game we have is 4:30, Packers at Cowboys. Cowboys minus 7, over under 50.5. And the night game for Sunday night is Rams at Lions. Lions minus 3, over under 51.5. And again, another revenge game kind of situation with Stafford and Goff.
Who is the vengeful one? Is it Goff or is it Stafford?
Goff.
Stafford got the hardware, right?
For this game for Stafford, I'm like, he got a Super Bowl. Goff went to the freaking Lions.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a rare situation where you have opposing quarterbacks that got traded for each other playing in the playoffs. Doesn't really happen. So yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Eagles minus 3 at Tampa. My sworn nemesis, Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Bucks.
Tampa's going to get it done. Eagles they've shit the bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. Jalen Hurts, known fraud, AJ Brown, diva.
Right.
Next slide.
Yep. Jalen Hurts, I think this is one of the biggest regressions we've seen in a QB in a long time. Really, what you have in Philadelphia is a
tush push, and that's it.
Yeah, he's a $55 million paperweight.
Yeah.
Browns, Bucks, gritty team. Honestly, I think this is kind of the reverse story than we were talking about earlier. Like once we got rid of an ailing Tom Brady, kind of got like a decent quarterback in there. They still have a shell of a team that won a Super Bowl, not that long ago. So they're kind of playing like it too.
Yeah.
So, Josh, let me get your one pick for these 4 games and kind of give me your rationale as to why.
I'm telling you, Tampa. And it goes down. I kind of gave it away, but a lot of dysfunction going on. AJ Brown and the Phillies head coach. How do you say the names?
Sirianni,
yeah. Sirianni and AJ Brown look like they're going to go have a cat fight in the back of the link or something, dude. Like can't get along. A lot of locker room drama. I think that's kind of started the demise there and the unraveling. Big contender in the NFC least. Year in, year out, but I think they're going to go down and get thrashed and take their lashings from the NFC South, darlings this season. I know even the NFC South has been, almost less than watchable. I mean, if the Bucks and the Falcons were playing in my backyard, I'd probably close the blinds so I didn't have to watch it. But it's going to be a great game for Baker. I think the defense is going to play really well. I think they're going to roll against Philly. Don't see how Philly comes out. They're just a train wreck right now, and you hate to see it. They look like a really good team, and I like Sirianni actually. I mean, he got me in the feels when he was crying during the national anthem at the Super Bowl last year. True patriot, real American, like the guy. But got to figure it out. Got to get the head cases out of the locker room or tell them to fix themselves. That way it stops fucking with the team chemistry. But yeah, give me the Bucks all day long. And then obviously my previous pick, I'll go with Miami 3.5 plus 3.5 against KC.
Frank, let me get your thoughts.
So I think it's time for the Cowboys to start winning in the playoffs.
Not them boys.
So I think Prescott's pretty much more or less a proven loser in the playoffs. Exactly. But Green Bay, they're a 500 team. So as long as he moderately shows up to play, Cowboys should win by 10 or 14 points, something like that. I mean, he doesn't even have to play a great game. He just has to show up a tiny bit more than he usually does. And it should be a pretty easy Cowboys win. I think the Eagles-Bucks game, they Eagles have definitely been struggling, to say the least. If they get in the 4th and 1 situation all game, then they can do it, I guess. But it's like, I've watched a few of their games, and it's just like they've kind of fallen apart offensively. I'd love to see Baker Mayfield playing for Super Bowl this year too. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens because they have the team. They have the team around them.
And playing his old team there, Frank.
Oh, another revenge game.
Say that again.
Mike McCarthy playing his old team.
To me, it's like he knows them pretty well. But at the end of the day, I think like the Eagles-Bucks game, it's very close.
Boys, we got to marinate on that, man.
We need your thoughts as a resident of Texas about how come the Cowboys are going to cover the -7.
We need to know.
Packers. They never cover against Packers. I don't think I've been alive since I covered versus Packers. So I need to hear this one.
I'm pivoting right back to that. He's going to explain that shit away.
So, in my mind, the Cowboys cover 7 just because Prescott, he kind of knows he's on the chopping block this year. Like, if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I think if he's not there, if he's not playing at the end of the year, I think he knows he's kind of like, Cowboys should obviously just get rid of this guy, So he knows he's got to win today. In my mind, when I look at it, that guy knows he has to win this game. And he knows he's got to win by probably 2 touchdowns. So I think he does it today. Usually he doesn't, obviously.
Who do you think's the characters that help Dak secure the dub today, Frank?
I think it's all him. It's got to be him. You know, I don't know that it's. I don't know. I don't know that it's like.
Cowboys are through. They're done.
Yeah.
Green Bay.
I mean, if you put. I think they're going to go up like 14-0 to start the game. I think he's going to start hot. You know, and I think they're going to roll today. Honestly.
Cool.
Okay.
Andy, given by your reactions and Josh's, I have an inclination that you might not agree with your friend from Texas. So let me get your picks for this game and the other ones.
Well, I feel like the last 3 episodes or so, we kept talking about strength of schedule and, what that really shows. And, I think I've shared this graphic with you guys midweek that, when we look at the teams that, that have like the average wins of the opponent they've beaten and things like that. And when you think about the NFC East, and I've been, sort of on this train as long as we've been talking, NFL on this podcast, that I think that their records are inflated, and that goes for both the Eagles and the Cowboys. And really, I lean more strongly towards taking the Packers +7 than I do Tampa Bay +3. And the reason being, I think that there's like Frank said, like this game, it seems like as long as Dak does just the minimum, they should win by like 14 points. So why is the spread only 7? And then as Naveen alluded to, these two teams have seen each other in the playoffs, with the missed field goals and things like that, always coming down to the last possession. And I just won't see, the Cowboys really covering the 7. In my opinion, I think that just seems like a too easy of a line for me. And on top of that, I think that, Cowboys, like, they, September, great. Looks like the prime Patriots. November, you kind of see the signs. And, come December and January, they disappear. And for just for the sake of staying consistent with what I've been saying the whole time, I'm going to take the other side of the Cowboys. I'm going to take the Packers. And maybe similarly, I'll do, for all of the reasons that you guys mentioned, I think Eagles right now, similarly, when you're not playing, the easy cupcakes, things get harder. And I think, it's showing. So, I would also take the Eagles with that. But, I would say if I had to pick one, I'm going to stick to Packers +7.
Cool. We're going to introduce a new segment today. We're going to give our resident NHL and hockey expert, Frank, a opportunity to put it on ice. So, Frank, give us your best reads for NHL for this week, maybe some bets, and kind of explain it such that a couple of guys from the South and a guy who never played hockey can understand.
Yeah, go
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
That's my hockey.
So the one game I really like today, to me, it's just jumping off the sheet, is the Avalanche versus the Maple Leafs. So it's 2 of the best players in the NHL playing today, McKinnon and Austin Matthews. These guys are both going to score goals today. They both always show up for big games. So, I think you're looking at an over there pretty easily. It's like a 5-4 game, maybe an overtime game. It could be 3-3 and then 4-3. But no matter how you kind of look at that game, it's going to be an over 6.5 without a doubt. I don't see a 1-0 game there pretty much ever. Both teams. So like the Avalanche, this team loves to score goals. I mean, that's just what they do. They have a terrible goalie, terrible backup goalie, and they love to score goals. So every time you look at an Avalanche game and they're playing above 500, like above 500 team, it's pretty much gone over like almost 80-90% of the time. I mean, it's just something that always jumps off the sheet. It always happens. It's kind of like a easier pick to make, If you just see the Avalanche versus above 500 team, you just take over. The other one is actually the Rangers today. They've been struggling pretty badly lately. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Yeah, they've been on like an ice cold streak lately. But they're playing the Capitals. They've beaten the Capitals this year by 4 goals once, and they've lost by 4 goals once. So today, to even the numbers out, they win by 2. Honestly, it's probably a 3-1 win for the Rangers today. It's probably an under game. I don't see a lot of goals getting scored. In the NHL, when the goalie comes out to play, which the Rangers have 2 good goalies, they're going to come out to play today. They're just going to have good goaltending. 1 goal or less game for the Rangers defensively. They're going to score some goals today. Capitals, they really don't control the puck well. They give the puck away a lot. And, the big win the Rangers had over the Capitals this year, they just kind of took the whole game over. That's what's going to happen today. Those are probably my 2. Rangers 1.5, and then Avalanche Leafs over 6.5. It's kind of what I'm seeing.
Cool. Thanks, Frank. All right. So what we're going to do to kind of wrap things up is talk about our best bets for the weekend. This can be any sport. I'll start with you, Josh. Looks like, you have a big lock for us today, and it kind of starts pretty soon. So why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, big lock for the day is the UT, University of Tennessee, -7.5 versus the Georgia Bulldogs. I appreciate you repping the brand. Yeah, Tennessee's going to bounce back from that, rock fight midweek game against Mississippi State. I think a loss in January is probably better than maybe a good win against a non, Power 5 or one of those mid majors that we were squeaking out, and making just grease spots on the floor in the end of December. So I think our team kind of learned some stuff from that. I'd like to see Vescovy kind of come back into his game a little bit. We saw Triple J kind of disappear too. So I need the 5th, 6th year seniors here to really step up. I mean, Dalton Connect shown that he was Himothy again against Mississippi State, even though we didn't close the deal. A lot of good things. There's a Kai Ziegler, great guard play, full court press most of the game. We seen a lot of good defense from Tennessee, and I think Rick Barnes has the boys ready to play. Another tie-in there, Mikey White, UGA's basketball coach, is the brother of athletic director for the University of Tennessee, Danny No Nugs White, right? So good storyline there. Mikey White used to be the head coach of Florida. The Bulldogs are coming in strong, though. They're undefeated in league play. I think they're 12-3 overall, unranked, but I still think it's going to be a good environment there in the Food City Center at Thompson Bowling Arena, and I think the fans are going to be locked in, and Tennessee covers easily. It's going to be a bloodbath. Go Vols!
Cool, Andy. Why don't you give us a couple bets too?
I will, and I'll just again comment on what Josh said. 12-3, sure, but playing who? Strength of schedule does come into revealing who you really are. So I like that logic. Obviously, I'll just make a couple of observations about the Tennessee basketball. Being Lucky Top Sports and all. Really love seeing Zakai Ziegler coming back to his form after the injury last year. Hate to see it, but quickly, like he's been a fan favorite, and Tennessee fans, just kind of like doing the GoFundMe and everything, really a feel good story, just seeing someone, especially for me personally, someone who lives in New York, love to see, someone like Zakai sort of driving. Good to see. I hope to,
Long Island boy.
Yeah. Hope to see him, do very well. And then obviously, go Vols there. That being said, my biggest lean would be Jazz plus half a point versus the Lakers in the first half. And this is something that I've been doing for some time, and I would give a reason why. Just kind of like statistically, Lakers are one of the top 3 worst teams when looking at the first half scoring differential, as well as the first quarter. So what that means is they really typically come out flat, easily dig themselves in like a 10 to 15 point hole, and from there it's always a catch up. What's interesting to me is that, this season we had the inaugural in-season tournament for the NBA. And for those games, Lakers went undefeated in the group play, the semifinals and finals. And those games, you could see these guys just coming out blazing. They're taking this like a game 7 type of thing. Like you could see LeBron really hustling, playing defense, going aggressive towards the rim. But I think he also realizes, and this has been his like secret for this longevity that we've never really seen in the NBA, is that he knows when to take it slow, and he knows when to go hard. It's like typically in the
Load
playoffs.
management.
Yeah. In the playoffs, he's infamously, he almost always loses game one, and we say that's his like fill out game. He wants to see what the defense is sort of throwing at the team and things like that. And I think as he's getting older, and he's like the oldest player right now active in the league, and he sort of like takes it slowly, and especially in the first half, he kind of like sees where the team is, and if it's like if they're up, or if they're like within a reasonable like distance, or the scoring differential that they can come back from, that's when he'll give that 100% effort, in taking it to the next gear. So typically the Lakers in the first half, whether they're a favorite or underdog, consistently this season, I think they're almost like 82% on the season, where they're losing the, not covering the first half spread. I think the last one and the time before, I think, they both failed to cover the spread. So give me Jazz. Lakers are a slight favorite today, but they're away in Utah. Utah also, has some home field advantage there with the altitude. LeBron James notoriously does not have a good record in Utah, and this goes all the way back to the Cavs and Miami Heat days. So I think Utah is gonna come out a little bit more strong than the Lakers, who are starting their road trip. So give me Jazz plus 0.5 points in the first half bet in the NBA.
Frank, how about you? Any last bets for the week?
I mean, my two are just the NHL, same bets. The Rangers lost 4 of the last 5, so they're going to win today. I mean, they're just not going to lose 5 out of 6 games, especially not to the Capitals. It's just not happening. And Avalanche and Leafs game over. It's just going to be a lot of scoring, probably 2-2 in the first period. I think it's one of those games where if you bet the over, you're just not even really going to sweat on it. I think it's going to get there maybe in the second period. And worst case scenario, you hit the over in overtime, 3-3, 4-3 win. So those are the top two.
As the gambling gods say, 3 + 3 = 7. So that's an over.
Yeah.
For my picks for the week, bring it back to Austin, Texas -6.5 at West Virginia. West Virginia, all-time fraud team. They get a lot of respect for their coaches and their full court press, and they shouldn't. Texas should really beat them down. No problem. So Texas -6.5. And we got the Browns. Browns -1.5. You might want to make that ML. I don't really trust 1.5. Should be about -130 ML. You could take the spread. You could take the alternate spread. You can make it 7.5. I don't think you're going to sweat that much. Browns -7.5. Browns -1.5 and ML mostly is what I would recommend for you guys. Just to catch, piggyback about Tennessee. We saw a classic kind of Tennessee game earlier in the week, and we had a reaction to it. You guys saw, second half, we have to chase our scoring droughts. No rebounding from anybody that's tall. Guard play kind of bail us out. Kind of second half, we finally figured out how to play defense and actually play basketball. So that's something that we need to do for 2 halves to win consistently. And it's a good team to go up against. Georgia, they don't really have that many threats for us. So I think, this 7.5 should be easy. Any closing thoughts from anybody for this week? Let me know, but I think this is a good point to kind of wrap up the pod.
Yeah, I agree. I think we get all the good topics this week. Great show, guys. I hope our listeners, when they do see this, they go like and subscribe all of our social media, and on YouTube. So me and Andy's going to go hit the blackjack tables, hopefully get on a run or some Spanish 21, go hit the sports book, go down and get, take a flyer on some of these picks of the day or locks of the day, right? and hopefully make some money, and hopefully the listeners do too. But hey, me and Andy's going to sign out. Hey, I appreciate you guys hopping on today, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
See
Good
ya.
luck over there.
Thanks.
Go Vols.
Get some
Go Vols.
money.